We are back once again, Bucks and Brews with you here. I'm sporting my new Mitten t-shirt. Very happy about Mitten there. I went to the great state of Wisconsin this week for my beer, Nick.
Oh, hey, welcome to the club, man.
One of my favorite Leinenkugels, the Snowdrift Vanilla Porter, which is probably my third favorite behind Summer Shandy and Harvest Patch. What you got, Nick?
Oh, man, I have a large selection, all from Wisconsin again. So I have a New Glarus Fat Squirrel, which is really fun. Lakefront Brewing Hazy Rabbit IPA. I think I've had one of these on here before. Actually, I have Three Sheeps Brewing Bonbon Chocolate Milk Stout.
Ooh, that sounds wonderful.
So room temperature, because I like to drink most of my dark beers room temperature, and yeah, I'm really excited for this one. To say it's fun because it's got a bunch of bonbons, and I call them truffles, I guess, like all over the label. And right, because we were having a special guest, so of course I'd have a special beer. And I've talked about this being like my top 3 or 5 beers. I got the New Glarus Wisconsin Belgian Red again. Because, dude, I love this beer. Like, New Glarus is topping my charts with that beer, man. I haven't been impacted by a beer in such a long time. For that thing to come out, I'm like, that is rocking it. I think this is a call out to New Glarus to sponsor me on that, because I'll buy a keg right now at that point. So, yeah, very exciting. Today's episode, I'm really excited to talk to a person that's bought an existing business, right? Like something that somebody else has already established. They're either retiring or they're moving to a different idea of what they want to do. I have quite a few friends that have sold businesses, bought businesses, right? I guess everything I've done, other people have done before, but I've opened my own business doing it, right? So, the idea to buy somebody's business is really awesome to me. It just goes to show that, like, you don't have to have that idea. You don't have to start things up, right? I know Gavin's going to give us his input on what he did and how he did it, but the ability to buy establishing clientele, like I know, right? Like my friends in the heating and cooling industry, right? Like some people they get burnt out. I mean, right? So David and I, we both know a heating and cooling guy.
Yep.
I just got started into real estate, ended up using your guys' heating and cooling guys along with mine. He was doing boilers, and then, only like a year or 2 into it, like I give the guy a call, and, he ended up having surgery, and he's like, yeah, I'm just retired. Like, I'm done. Right. And I was like, he goes, yep, sold it all to this company. Give him a call. I trust them. And I was like, oh, all right. So it's just, there's always a point in life where, people are going to sell it. Right. And they can give it to their kids or something like that. But the ability to buy that clientele is really cool.
Yeah, and I asked Gavin to join us tonight because, like Nick said, he bought an existing business. It was a business with, kind of a deep roots here in Grand Rapids. And we'll get more into that when Gavin joins us. And I knew starting early today wouldn't be a big deal because Gavin doesn't drink, so he's not going to have any fun beers to share with us tonight. And I figured Nick and I could discuss, some of the things to look for when you start to, do some research on buying an existing business. So, as usual, I sat here, I did some research, and I got a whole list of stuff for you, Nick, when you're deciding you want to buy your friend out. Yeah,
I'm always willing to listen on things I should be looking for, because there's, I've done it before, help some friends and stuff like that, but normally on the numbers side. But yeah, there's definitely things I'm interested in hearing.
So one of the things I really liked was when you're looking to buy a business, you're looking to buy the assets of the business, not necessarily the business itself. So, and one of the reasons is if you're buying, we're going to use my wife's business as an example. So you're going to buy Break Room Therapy. If you're buying the LLC, you're buying all of the debt that comes along with Break Room Therapy. Okay? Whereas if you're buying the assets, you're not buying any of that debt. You're buying whatever, we have for, cost of goods sold, or, the furniture and stuff that we have there. So, you know, you're financing the actual purchase of the good things that come along with the business, not the actual debt that, you know, your company is already in.
I say, and I know you guys just did that not too long back, right? There was a company over in the Lansing area that was attempting to kind of do something around the same thing that you guys were doing. For some reason, something, you know, COVID kind of happened. He couldn't get into the role of things, right? But he had a bunch of supplies or you know, things on hand, and you know, for you guys, right? So people watching, like Break Room, right? They break glass, they break computer monitors. If you ever seen Office Space, right? They break large printers. I mean, who doesn't want to just go beat the crap out of a large printer? I mean, right. So, but you guys wouldn't pretty much, you didn't buy, you know, Break Room 1, 2, 3. You bought all of the stuff that Break Room 1, 2, 3 had.
Right.
So,
we basically went through their assets and they said, this is what we have. And, you know, we bought out the assets that for us made sense. I mean, they still had stuff left over that they had to deal with because we didn't actually want their business. And you know, when you're looking to buy something, so, you know, you're deciding to buy Nick out of his McDonald's franchise, you know, because you can buy a franchise. Obviously, you know, you're not walking in there saying, well, I only want this one register, you got to keep the other register. You know, you're getting whatever the business comes with.
Yep.
But I mean, if he had taken out a new loan on something, that doesn't necessarily have to be a part of your deal. That's something that can be negotiated, and, you know, he might have to pay off with his proceeds from selling the business.
Yeah. You know, I look at things, right, from the real estate side, right? I mean, it depends on what you have, but I know a friend of mine is selling basically his business, right? He's got a portfolio in Grand Rapids, and he's got another portfolio outside of Grand Rapids, and he's got them split up, and right. But he's selling his real estate assets and just he's moving into a different place, and so, you know, I guess I always look at, right, when I buy a rental, right? I mean, it's growing my business, but it's usually taking from somebody else's business, right? Like the 8 unit, right? I mean, I bought that out of somebody else's business. He was running, you know, and so, but, you know, we go to 1031s and stuff like that, right? So he has to take that and he has to go buy something bigger, you know, or more money wise, I guess, right? And so, you know, it's a way to help grow. So I mean, there's people that do that type of stuff all the time. You know, get rid of your low performing assets and go into something bigger. So
yeah, so, you know, you also get better tax treatment if you're not actually buying all of that with the business too. You know, you're starting with kind of a fresh slate there. We have Gavin joining right now. The other thing you need to do is figure out about the lease, the actual seller's lease, and if you can just assume that lease.
sure.
Because obviously if, you know, you take over a business and they don't want to renew that lease, now you got to find some place to go to.
Yeah, saying that, you know, that's those are things to worry about because, you know, let's say with you guys even, right? So we go back to the Break Room and it's okay, hey, you know, you guys are loud and obnoxious, right? And you're throwing glass and breaking glass and you're hearing this stuff happen all the time. Who's to say that the owner just likes you two as, you know, as owners? They don't know me from anybody. They don't know that I'm gonna run the same thing. You know, they're worried about, hey, you know, the lease technically says you guys can run 24/7 or whatever you want, but we really like it that you guys are open until, you know, it's an unwritten rule that you work from, let's say, you know, 3 o'clock on when most businesses are closing. So then, right, there's a possibility that landlord, if it's under, you know, if it's not an owned building, there's a possibility that the landlord's just like, nope, I don't want this to be a thing anymore. So,
Gavin, can you hear us?
I can hear you. What's up, guys?
Fantastic. We can hear you too. So, big shout out to Gavin Willard, who is the owner of Tardy's Collector's Corner.
What's
Tardy's
up, everybody?
is a local shop here in Grand Rapids. I want to say it's been open since 1979.
You got it.
Oh, look at me. Pulling
yeah,
a
you
date
don't
right
look
out
like
of my
you were
hat.
born in '79.
I'm actually the second owner of it. I took over it about 6 years ago, And yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, this year's been weird, but other than that, it's been pretty darn cool.
So, Gavin, we really wanted to kind of know how that whole transition started. I mean, you went, I know that you were a customer,
Yep.
and then, you ended up becoming the owner. And, I'll kind of later tell the story of how Gavin and I became friends because, for people that know me, Nick knows this very well. I don't really like people and I don't really talk to people. And,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second.
Gavin didn't really give me a choice when I went in one day. So,
Yeah.
so
No, man, I
Gavin,
grabbed you by your ears and I'm like, you talk to me right now.
you kind of did. So
I think-
6 years now you've had Tardies, huh?
Yeah, man, it's been awesome. I mean, like, it's so basically we'll start at the beginning. So Deanna and I started doing shows before we were affiliated with Tardies, except for being customers. This was just our place that we always got our comic books at.
So you're doing comic book shows.
Yeah, yep. We were doing
Okay.
Comic-Cons, toy shows, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yep. And we used to do, so we did comic book shows and toy shows, but we kind of didn't know where we were going, like what we wanted to do yet. So we were doing hemp jewelry at the time too, and doing metal festivals and music festivals and stuff like that too.
There you go.
So
Like
I mean,
metal like the rock music, like heavy metal.
yep.
Nice.
There was a local one in Grand Rapids, well, outside of Grand Rapids, called Carnival of Chaos, and it was a really cool show. I mean, like, really, really intense, but I mean, like, it was a great show. You sit up and the first year we set up there, we made hemp jewelry, but to like incentivize people, we brought king size things of M&Ms and candy bars. We wouldn't sell them. We were giving them away with necklaces
There you go.
at a music festival where people are drinking and smoking and I'm doing all the adult things that they want to do. It's really the best way to make. I mean, like, I sold one guy like 5 necklaces just because he wanted M&Ms.
Dude, I would have bought M&Ms, or like I would have bought necklaces just to get M&Ms. Like I'm that guy. Like if they were pita M&Ms, dude, I'd have been like, this dude knows me, like to a T.
Absolutely. No, man, you got to do what you got to do.
David had told us that you weren't going to be drinking, but I seen what you just had. So can you tell our viewers what you're drinking today?
I'm drinking the smallest 10-ounce can of Pepsi.
Hey, at least it's something, right? So everybody drinks something. We have people that just drink water on here. We happen to partake in some brews once in a while, a little mixed drink. So, but we, judgment free. So,
Do
all
you?
right.
Absolutely. It's your show, man. I'm not coming on here and talking about other people's drinks. Absolutely.
You're doing festivals.
Yeah.
You don't know where you want to go.
So basically, it was we wanted to do we would do music festivals, we would do Comic-Cons, basically anything to get away from. My wife worked at a family fair for forever, and I worked at a gas station, and it was just kind of like this is the thing that pays the bills that doesn't really make us happy, but we would work 40 hours there and then work another 30 to 40 hours on selling stuff online or at conventions or at music festivals or whatever we could do, So yeah, I mean, like, we just went at it and did what we could do. I mean, anything to get off of somebody else's pay stream and get to our own business, basically.
Sure. And so I assume David said you used to shop at Tardy's.
Yeah. Yep. It's been our local place that we shop since like 2003, I want to say.
Okay. So now, was it always named Tardy's? Did you guys do a name change? I mean, how does, like, walk us through, like, how did you even talk to the owner that I want to buy it? Like, what is this whole thing?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I should probably talk about the thing that I'm on here for instead of being like, oh yeah, we used to do all sorts of stuff. Next question.
No,
Yeah,
man.
we talk about everything here, so.
And we want to know, right? We want to know what it takes to get to that next point, because, like, right, there's going to be the guy that's out there just like you, right, working in a gas station, working in something, and they're doing this little side hustle of whatever they're doing, right? Like, I don't care if it's just, hey, I'm mowing lawns at night, or I go out and snow blow. Like, there's always somebody.
Yeah, no, I mean, so basically what we did was, so we've been shopping there for forever, and I would just go in and chit chat with the owners, and sometimes he was real sociable, and sometimes it was like you'd get 2 words out of the guy. He just wouldn't. He'd clam up. He didn't want to talk. So we started doing shows, and we started doing conventions and things like that a little bit more, and started bonding a little bit about that. And he told us about the stories about Comic-Cons back in the day, which they sound like a totally different beast from the 70s and 80s. I mean, like, drugs were very, 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 very much necessary, it sounds like, for all the old school shows, you know? But no, I mean, like, we just kind of bonded over the fact of conventions and doing stuff, and we kept talking and kept talking. And this is us shopping there for, 10 years at that point. And he kind of approached us one day and was like, "This is what you want to do, right?" We go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm looking to sell it, and I've reached out to a couple people. No one seems really that interested. You guys, this is what you want to do with your life, you know? Like, we're trying to get out of it. If you're trying to get into it, we can really, like, make this happen smoothly, you know?" And it was awesome. I mean, like, we were kind of skeptical at first, but we're like, all right, well, this is gonna cost the sun and the moon, or it's just gonna be impossible, or there's no way, because it's one of those things. What Once you're used to doing a 9 to 5 job, and once you're used to doing that and your side hustle and all this different stuff, that it's so hard to take that jump where you're like, I'm doing just myself, you know, like, I'm not doing work for someone else. I am completely betting on myself, and I'm only doing for me. That is a hard jump to make, you know?
Yeah, trust me, I know. it's
I think we all kind of know.
Yeah. It's scary as hell. And I mean, like, now there's at least a little bit more buffering now with DoorDash and Grubhub and all these different things that you can do. Uber, well, maybe not Uber, not so much right now, but like Shipped and all these different things that you can do to make a little bit of extra cash on the side. So it's a little bit less scary now. But at the same time, it's still always terrifying to take that first jump to be like, okay, well, we're going to do this on our own, you know? So basically what happened is the owners were like, okay, we want to be retired in 4 years. So, okay, that's perfect. So I came and worked for them for a year. Then my wife came and worked with us for a year. So it was the two of us. And then it flipped. We bought the business, and they started working for us just on the weekends for the next 2 years. So we lost no customers in the changeover. There was no, you know, hard feelings, no animosity. Everybody knew that, like, we were stepping in to take care of things. We weren't there to shake everything up and change everything. So we just made it real smooth, you know?
So Nick and I were talking, you know, about some of the things to look for when you're looking to buy a business, and we only very briefly scratched the surface. But one of the things in my research was see if you can get the seller to stick around for a while. So
Yeah.
you basically had 4 years where Kirby, and I'm guessing his wife,
Yep.
you know, we're still involved in the business, even though, you know, those first 2 years they were still the owner, but the next 2 years you guys owned it.
Right.
And, you know, that kind of made the transition so much easier, didn't it?
Dude, that is, if you can make that happen, if you can get the owner, like, if you're trying to buy a business and put a number down the road, as far as, I would love to buy this business, but I want to take full control, or I want you to be fully away in this amount of time. That is perfect scenario, especially if you get along with the people, which we get along with him and his wife. We still get dinner and stuff like that, you know. And it's just the thing that can be a little bit difficult is getting them to take their hands off the wheel once you're like, I got this. But at the same time, once you got it, you know, then it's your business. But yeah, no, I mean, like, if you can get the person to stick around and just enjoy learning from them and really listen, you know, I mean, like, if the biggest little backstory, the biggest retailer for comic books is Diamond. It was the only retailer for a long time, but now it's just the biggest. If you ask Diamond what you need, they're not going to say, oh, you probably only need 3 or 4 copies of this book. They're going to be like, well, it's part of a big, huge story. You're probably going to need 200 to 300 copies just for the shelf. You talk to an old shop owner, like, no, that's okay. That's all right. Don't do that, you know? So, no, I mean, he saved us on a bunch of stuff and pointed out things where it's like, you need that, you don't need that. Don't let him talk you into this. That's actually a really good idea, you know?
Yeah, and that's got to be invaluable, honestly. And so we're thinking this was probably around 2014. You decided to, take the plunge.
Yep. Yep.
Which, I remember this well because the first time I shopped at Tardy's was the anniversary sale the year
Okay.
my daughter graduated, which was 2014.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
So I remember coming in and Kirby was, behind the counter and she had won something in one of the raffles they were doing. And, she was like, yeah, cool. I think it was an Anne Rice signed book.
Awesome.
So, it was something really cool, but, she
Yeah.
didn't really read Anne Rice, so she didn't care that much.
Sure.
And a couple weeks later, so this is the story about how Gavin and I became, closer. A couple weeks later, I stopped in again because she had really gotten into the Flash. And
Get out of here. No way.
can you imagine? So I stopped in and I was looking, for some stuff. And I don't like talking to people in stores. I just want to look and be left alone. And Gavin, came up to me and is like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. He goes, what can I help you, find? Are you looking for something specific? And I told him, well, my daughter's into the Flash. And, I was just looking to see what, might interest her. And he goes, there's this really great series. And I don't remember what it was. But Gavin's like, yeah, I know I have it, but it might be at home. But here, get this, and she'll like this. And I'm like, all right. So I no more than got home, and I had a message from Gavin, and he's like, yep, that set's at home. I'm going to bring it in for you specially. She's going to love it. And I'm like, all right, I don't like talking to people, but this guy seems pretty nice.
What you're saying is I harassed you to buy things until you bought them. And then I was like, come back and buy more things.
Technically, yeah, but you were so nice about it, I didn't care.
That's called sales 101, right? Like get somebody that doesn't want to buy it and make them buy it. Like Gavin,
he was fantastic. He made me feel at ease, which, I bought comic books when I was a kid. As I got older, I really didn't buy them. I really didn't read them. And, at that point, Caitlin enjoyed reading, but she didn't want to read big, long books. And
Sure.
she loves superheroes still. I mean, she's 19 at the time. She loves superheroes. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to get her some comics and let's see what happens. And, now she has a pull list at Tardy's, which, for those of you that are uninformed, a pull list is when you give a list to a shop and you say, every month I want these comics. So when they come in, they stick them, under your name, and you come in and get your comics. You don't have to do anything but show up and pay for them. Please show up and pay for them. I know how important that is because I have a friend that owns a comic book shop.
Exactly.
And, Gavin made me feel really at ease. And ever since, I mean, we've had this kind of, okay, it's going to sound weird. We've had this beautiful give and take relationship. So Gavin runs a comic book shop. Nick has said over and over again that, I dress up and run around in my Star Wars suit. For those of you that don't know, my daughter runs around in a Flash suit as Jessie Quick, which is the girl version of Flash. Every free comic book day, you'll see us at Tardy's in front. People standing on the sidewalks waiting to get in because it's a small shop and you can't let that many people in. And, this year with COVID, I mean, that's just normal now. We'll stand on the sidewalk and take pictures with people. We're just out there to have a good time. He's happy because, we're entertaining some people, they have something to do while they're sitting there waiting to get in the door and spend money. And it's become really good. We opened our business and Gavin's been one of those supportive people for Dawn and I, throwing out ideas or trying to run dual promotions. He's said before to us, hey, if you need some gift cards to give away to help drive sales, just let me know. I have no problem doing that. You need to put some literature at the store, I'm happy to do that. I mean, literally, he couldn't be a better business partner or, honestly, a better friend.
Well, you need to stop saying nice things about me right now because it's getting real uncomfortable.
Yeah, I say, I'm pretty sure I just went down on the friendship list, bro. Like,
I love you too, Nick.
Yeah, no, guys, I mean, so David and I, we talk about how we're friends, but I mean, like, you should hear how he talks about all of his real friends and then, like, the way he talks to me.
Just the abuse,
I talk way worse to my real friends.
No, man. So that's what it's all about, though, isn't it? I mean, like we've always had this good relationship and this good friendship. There's been times where we've been tight at the shop, and I've put out posts like when we first bought the shop. There was a couple of sales that we were like, hey, if you have some extra cash, it'd be really cool for you to come pick up some stuff. And you know who was always there? David and Don and Caitlin. I mean, like, so I mean, like, it's not just owning a business together and helping each other out in a business. It's just humanity, and like I don't know, like that's the biggest thing with all of this. Don't be a butthole. Try and help your fellow man succeed.
You don't tell me what to do.
Fair enough. You know what? It's your show.
Well, and through all COVID, that's a really good point too, because I know, when all of this shutdown started, Gavin's one of those people that we stayed in contact with, and he stayed in contact with us. So when they opened, I immediately went in and bought stuff.
Dude,
not necessarily stuff I needed, but I felt like, okay, Gavin's always been supportive. I need to go spend some money. I'm gonna go buy, something at the shop. So, I'll go drop $50 or something. It's, not a big deal to me or to him, but he's like, hey, money's coming in the door. He did the same for us. We were sitting there closed for a while, and he got a hold of Dawn, and he's like, I need $100 in gift cards. And
yeah,
she's
man.
like, I know times are tough for you guys too. I don't want to put you out. He's like, no, I need $100 in gift cards. Sell me some gift cards. And that was basically our sales for May.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, and so COVID has made everything insane. I mean, I did a daily video from the store every single day because I went in every single day, and it was brutal because we're right next to a deli, so they can serve food. People were coming up and buying stuff. So essentially, it felt like we were grounded the entire time. Like everybody's outside doing stuff, everybody else is outside doing commerce, especially right outside of our window, and we are told you are not allowed to interact with the public. But COVID was a very good test to see if you were ready to own your own small business and what you were ready to put into it, because it made us hustle in ways that we were like, I didn't think I could do that, but yeah. Panic attacks, sure. Stress, yup. But you make it through.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what the successful businesses find a way to do. It's not the easiest thing, and it's not necessarily what you want to do, but you find a way to make it through and be okay. And that's really kind of where both Tardy's was at and Break Room was at, is yep, this shutdown sucks, but we're gonna make it through it, and we'll be okay when it gets over, whenever that may be.
Right. So are you guys affected by this shutdown now?
So far we're not. We had pulled back some of our own openness. So like we had gone back to 2 rooms for a while, and we made the decision on Friday to go back down to 1 room. And now we've made the decision that, when you show up, you need to call us, because we're not going to have anybody coming in the business if somebody is in the business.
Yeah.
So,
Smart.
I mean, we're trying to make it as safe as possible, but you guys know as well as I do, mental health is really tough for people right now. And if we can stay open and give people that outlet to come in and break some things and blow off some steam, I think that's helpful to people. I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, excuse me, if they're not telling you specifically, I mean, like I saw the list of what they want closed. And I mean, like, you don't fit really into any of those things, which is great, because you kind of, in your appointment only, I can't imagine them harassing you on that.
Yeah, we're pretty safe, I think.
I have had the thing that's been killing us the last 2 days is because we're a retail store, and I think people forget that we're a retail store just because we're pretty comfortable, and a lot of times it feels like you're just going and hanging out in your living room or hanging out at a friend's house. So people are like, "Are you guys closed?" We're like, "No, come in and buy your stuff now." I mean, but we've probably had 30 calls in the last 2 days. Like, "You guys closing on Wednesday?" No, not unless we have to, which we don't have to right now.
So I've been writing a million notes here. So, so we had, when you were talking about working with the old owners and kind of during your process of buying them out, um, I have just so many questions.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about, like, what he taught you, some certain things that you should buy and certain things you shouldn't, and how that was benefit. But some of the questions, what did they have that you didn't, right? And then what do you have now that they didn't have? Like, um, right? Like, what are some things that have changed since you bought that?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was starting to think of like, my brain was going way past that philosophically and things like that. So
No,
like
these are
just
simple and easy questions. I like to just be say.
perfect. Um, no, so I mean, like, one of the things that they had that we didn't carry, and I don't remember if David was shopping there when we had it, but we used to have an
Yep.
adult room. We used to have a room that was just Playboys and penthouses and all that kind of stuff in the store. And
Sounds like my kind of place.
yeah, right. It's super fancy. This is actually a great story too, how we got rid of that stuff. So we got rid of that stuff because basically you'd walk in, or people would walk in and they'd see it was like saloon doors, and 99 like we made like, I tracked the sales in that area, and we did about $6 a month in business out of that corner. And people would come in with their kids and see the saloon doors and go, no, this isn't my comic book store. Because I mean, like, you don't think of Hustler and Penthouse when you're thinking of comic books, even though it's all paper and there's comics in those adult magazines and stuff. But it didn't add anything to the store, and it was actively taking away.
Sure.
But the best part of the whole story was, so we buy the shop and we're getting rid of it. The old owner's like, yeah, you're gonna lose a lot of money, and I'd shown him about the tracking the room and stuff, and he goes, yeah, I get it. So we put it all up on eBay, and it was 37 short boxes of adult magazines, and it was pickup only. You had to drive up and pick it up for $500. And somebody that lived over in Wisconsin and drove all the way to our store. They didn't get to the shop until like midnight, so we had to meet them down at the store at midnight to sell pornography. And so like midnight porn deal at the shop, and they pull up and they look around and they go, what the hell is this place? And I go, it's a comic book shop. Like, superhero movies are kind of in vogue. People know about comic book shops for the most part. They were blown away at the concept. And they're like, well, what do you do? Like, just sell out of here? And I go, oh, we have conventions. They're like porn conventions. And I go, sure. They knew the concept of porn conventions, but not Comic-Cons.
Wow.
All right. So, quick side story. My wife and I got married just over 10 years ago. We were broke, so we go to Las Vegas for our honeymoon because it was cheaper than going up to the upper part of Michigan. Like, people don't believe this. Like, when you start doing the math, like, it was cheaper. So we go to Chicago. I'm a freak. I book everything so so on time. I call about our hotel room so many times. We get to Chicago and pull into the hotel area, and the guy's like, nope, we're full. And I was like, nope, we have a reservation. He goes, no, you don't. And I was like, yeah, I've called you 3 times like the past couple of weeks. Like, and he goes, no, you haven't called me. I hit like my phone, call. The guy answers the phone while he's standing outside the door, and he's like, this hotel. And I was like, yeah, I'm calling about my room. I was like, I've called you. It's on your list. So, and we're like, forget it. We'll go find another hotel room. And we're traveling all these hotel rooms in Chicago, right? And everybody's sold out. And we finally find one. My uncle, big shout out to Tony. There's one room left, and it's like penthouse at some place, and it's $450 for the night. And we're like, yeah, no, we're broke. He goes, nope, it's my gift to you guys. And we're like, all right, why is every place sold out? And they go, oh, there's a porn convention happening down in Chicago here. And I was like, there's conventions for this? Like, holy crap. So yes, like, people know about porn conventions. The only reason I know about them now is because I couldn't get my hotel room that I booked for $40. Yeah, that's insane, man.
Well,
So
I have
But
to
yeah,
I have to ask this, Gavin. So Kirby opened the shop in '79.
Yep.
I have to imagine that room probably generated a good amount of money through the '80s and early '90s before the internet.
Right.
And since the advent of the internet, who buys porn magazines?
Oh, it's not. It's so there's people that are legitimate collectors that would come in
Yep.
because like I dealt with these people for 2 years, you know, and there's people that were legit collectors, and you know, it wasn't all porn. There was just comic books that were more risque and things like
Yeah.
that, which you don't need a whole room for that. But most of the time, and I'm sure I've told this story to you, David, before, most of the time it's the mentally handicapped coming in and buying adult magazines.
Yep.
And it's not a great feeling. I mean, like, not that they don't deserve to see all that kind of stuff, but like to sell a mentally handicapped person in an adult magazine, it doesn't give you the warm feelings in your heart that you'd like, you know? Not like when you came in and was like, my daughter's looking for some Flash comics, and I'm like, I gotcha. It's not like I need to find porn, and it's like, come on, let's go find some.
Let's go, little buddy. So now, and then what do you have now that they didn't have? So I guess did you replace that space? I mean, or what is something that you brought to the business new?
So we filled out more in that space with comic books and made everything much more full. We have way more graphic novels and individual sets of comic books and things like that. But they did very little to no toys, and we've really leaned in hard to vintage toys. So Star Wars, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Transformers, and then 70s stuff like $6 Million Man, Pulsar, you know, just weird, eclectic, anything that you can lay your hands on, you know, that's cool, old, vintage. We're about it, you know.
Sure.
Well,
so
I have to say this just to cut you off.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, you know, I know a guy that was on a TV show, and they brought in a USS Flag to that TV show. TV show's Comic Book Men, and they tried to sell this ship to the shop, and I think that Ming ended up buying USS Flag. So I know that Gavin procured a USS Flag, which is the G.I. Joe big
it's the biggest playset that's ever existed. It's 7-foot long aircraft carrier.
Thank you. I couldn't figure out the name of it. They put it together over 2-3 weekends.
Oh, at the shop?
Yeah.
No, we did that in one weekend.
Okay, so in one weekend they put the entire thing together, and it was in the middle of the store for, God, I want to say a couple months.
Yeah, it was like 6 months, dude. And okay, this was an oopsie advertising event thing that I didn't even mean to do. So we were working a random Saturday. One of our guys called off, and Deanna and I aren't usually at the shop on Saturdays. So we're like, well, we got to put together this flag and see how complete it is. Call up my buddy Brett and a few other friends that own flags, and I go, hey, you guys want to come down and help me build this thing? They go, yeah, sure. And I was like, just for grins, you know. I was like, let's make this a Facebook event. Come help us build a flag with Tardy's Collector's Corner. And I think like 30 people showed up in store to hang out watching us build this flag. And then there was another like 40 people. We did it on Facebook Live. Another like 40 people watching us just build this thing and hanging out, and people are shopping around us and generating sales, and just but it was so cool because people would walk up and talk and be like, oh, did you know that the flag was built as a bet between people at Hasbro, because they didn't believe that they could market something so big? And it was like, it was just cool. Like all these little factoids just kept dropping out, you know?
So did you, I seen one of those at the Grand Rapids Public Museum, because they had the toys exhibit for like the last year, and they had one just in the middle of like this entire thing. Did you happen to go to that exhibit at the Public Museum?
Yeah. So real quick, other sidebar, the guy that set that all up, his name's Tim Priest, and he still helps us on weekends. He'll be working this weekend at the shop.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Let's say, so you had mentioned David pull list. I'm a little familiar. I hung around some. I didn't do comic books, but I I did like Nerd Magic the Gathering. Do you have rules for your pull list people? Like David said, hey, please pay for it and stuff like that. Like, I know the comic book shop I went to, like, he's like, look, if you go 2 weeks without getting it, like, you're no longer allowed a pull list here, type of a thing, because people would just constantly, like, keep their stuff building up, and he wouldn't sell his supply, right? I mean, do you have lists for your people? And then how does that affect, like, with COVID? Like, are you shutting down for COVID or no?
So we did 9 weeks shutdown, but we don't have to shut down for this next one until they tell us we have to.
Sure.
So right now we're golden. But no, yeah, we've got a pull list set up. It's usually about 3 weeks, but we don't just stick everybody's stuff back out on the shelf after 3 weeks. We usually wait about 3 weeks and then get a hold of them and go, hey, you got a stack of stuff here. You got to make your way in, or just give us a credit card number. We'll run it over the phone right now. And most people go, I didn't even realize it had been 3 weeks. I'm so sorry. Here's my credit card number. Let's take care of it right now. And we'll just hold on to it for them. It's paid for, it's taken care of.
Sure.
I'd say, so like the best thing that we got by buying the shop is our customer base. Our customer base is so amazing. Anytime we're in trouble, anytime they know that, like, for instance, the first time that COVID shut us down, a half hour after they announced that all businesses were closing down, you would have thought a bus let out in front of our store with as many people that came in and were just like, well, here's my pulls. Here's another $100 to take care of anything that might come in for me while you guys are shut down. You're taken care of,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of our pull and hold system is 3 weeks, and then we contact you, and then we probably give you another week or two. And if we don't hear from you after that, then we shut you off,
Yep. Now, do you have like promos for those people, or like we're Bucks and Brews, so I mean Brews, right? I'm a Mug Club member at more places than most people are. So like, do you have like like a comic book club or whatever? Like, I mean, is there a benefit to getting your being on a pull list? Like, what's the perk that you have?
The main thing is I mean, like, we don't have a ton of perks per se, but a lot of comic book clubs, they'll charge you. They'll be like, okay, well, it's $10 a year and you get 10% off your books, or $20 a year and you get 20% off your books, or whatever. We have our bonus program that we give you stamps. For every $5 you spend, you get a stamp. When you fill it up, you get a $25 credit in the store, and you can stack them. You can use them as much as you can. The big thing though is we go through our books and make sure that the stuff is not damaged. We bag and board stuff if you request it, and it's there. So there's so many books that people like, case in point, there was a book that came out a couple weeks ago, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin, which it was a huge book. It was the first book that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird worked on together since mid-90s. They hadn't done Turtles since then. They barely really even talked. So this book, like, they underproduced it basically, and oh, raffle tickets too. That's right. Yeah, there is another thing. My wife's like, hey, don't forget. But so they underproduced this book from what they needed to. So then they shorted our orders. Comic book shops nationwide, they shorted them by 20%. So we didn't get close to 25, 30 copies. So it was almost to the point where, like, the only way you could get a copy of that book at any of the shops locally is having a pull and hold. And I mean, there's a lot of benefits. It shows to us that you're serious about shopping with us, and you'd be surprised the extra little things, like with David, I know what he's looking for. So he'll get random messages where I go, hey man, like, for instance, he was looking for an AT-AT Walker, like a vintage AT-AT, for a long time. And I got a really nice one in. I go,
AT-AT Walker is, it's a Star Trek thing that's like a square box with some feet, and it blows up a Star Destroyer dust thingy.
Yep.
Don't listen to a word Nick says. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah,
it was from that movie Black Hole, and they make the noise at when they walk around. That's exactly right.
See, Gavin gets it. I was perfect with that.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. You're perfect. Clearly, you have a huge grasp on science fiction. And
that's perfect.
Absolutely. So you know, I mean, like you develop that customer base and you develop that pull list. I mean, that's one of the biggest things is you develop that relationship, and you kind of get first dibs with things. And also, as my wife just popped in, was like, "Hey, don't forget this. We do a raffle once a month where all you got to do is pick up your pull list and you get a raffle ticket. And we pull it every month. And whenever you win either a big hardcover comic book or a statue or something. It's minimum $50 value to $150 value. So, you know, just something extra, you know, and it's always something fun when you walk in and go, hey, you won a thing, you know?
Right, for sure.
So part of the great thing about, you know, having that personal relationship, which, you know, we hit on that a little bit, but so Gavin gave me a call or sent me a message, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And he's like, hey, I have something for you. Sweet. So I come into the shop and he goes, yeah, it's not a big deal, but it's kind of cool. And he hands me a Dixie cup.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
I have not, because I love my Dixie cup. It's a Dixie cup from, I want to say, I don't know, 1980-ish, of a Tusken Raider. Now, for those of you that don't know, I dress as a Tusken Raider for Star Wars. And Gavin goes, it's not really a big deal, but I saw it and I thought of you and I thought you'd want to have this. And I'm so happy with this little Dixie cup that Gavin gave to me.
Yeah.
That it's right now it's just sitting in a, you know, box, but I'm gonna get a baseball cube for it. And I'm going to stick it in a baseball cube because I'm so excited about a Dixie cup that probably cost 3 cents when it came out.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
No, man. I mean, but that's what it's all about is you develop that personal relationship. And you know, you don't necessarily have to have a pull list to get a personal relationship with your comic book guy, but like, it's definitely that bringing back that whole thing that we talk about community and like getting to know a person. So you're not, I think one of the biggest problems that we have with like big corporations like Walmart and Target and stuff is you're never used to seeing the same person every time you come. I mean, maybe eventually, but for the most part, it's always a rotating cast, and you never really get to know anybody. You know, I get to know all my customers. You know how they're doing. One of our customers had surgery a few months ago, and like I've been talking with his daughter almost like once a week, just checking in and see how he's doing and stuff.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I mean, I think that's what separates, right, big business from small businesses. You know, definitely, like you hit it right on the head. It's that relationship building. I mean, you know, again, nobody else would do any like a Tusken Raider Dixie cup, right? I mean, that's something very small, and it just right. It hit the home for David, and you know, you've hit a lifelong customer at that point.
And I went, gotcha, when I did it.
Right, dude. I mean, you have to, right? I mean, that's hey, you ain't going nowhere else, buddy.
That's right. I own you now.
You know, but and I know when I go looking for things, even in the real estate side, right? It's like, if I don't make a relationship with people, like nobody knows that I'm looking for a place, right? Like now randomly, it's just, hey, there's this my neighbor's selling this place or something like that, right? And it's just all off of that quick. Oh, hey, like, you know, I probably bought a person a shot or something. Who knows, you know? But you know, it's those small things that equal out, right? And if I buy a place from somebody, like I almost always go for a steak dinner, right? It's like hey, thanks so much for thinking of me. Like, here we go. So I know one of the biggest questions everybody's gonna have, right? Like, I'm going to buy a small business that's been around forever, or whatever, for a small period of time. How do you come up with your numbers, like, to buy the place, right? Like, I don't know. You don't have to be specific if you don't want to, but like, I would assume that Tardy's isn't worth $5 million, right? Like,
Right.
you know, like how do you come up with like the value of what the place is worth, how much you're actually willing to pay? Like, how did you come up with that figure?
Well, I was actually, I won't get super specific into it, but I was actually really lucky with because we had my wife and I have been talking about opening up a comic book shop for years. You know, that was our goal to do. That's why he brought it up with us to buy this shop. And we had looked into it and looked in, there's the company Diamond that sells the almost all comic books, has a figure kind of like, okay, well, this is the number that you should have to open up your own business. And it was between this number and this number. And when we first started talking about it, he had a number in mind, and we're like, okay, cool. And it took 3 or 4 times getting together of him to actually give us the number, because I think he was afraid that we were going to flinch at the number. And it was kind of on the high side of what they said a good startup business would cost. But at the same time, we're not buying a startup business, or we're not starting a startup business. We're buying something that already has legs in the community. We have, you know, at least 50 pull and hold customers, 50 to 100 at the time. We've got regulars, we've got people who know the name in town, and we're established, you know. So I mean, like, it was, like I said, it was on the high side of what they said was acceptable to have to start up a business, start up a comic book shop. But it was like, okay, well, you're not getting a startup, you're getting something that's fully ready to go. You know, it's step in and do this thing. So
now, I mean, I guess did you ask him for his, so like when I go buy apartments, right? Like I ask for a Schedule E, right? It shows me how much money you actually made. Like, you know, anybody till they're blue in the face can say, oh, this can rent for $1,100 and blah blah blah. But like the bank's not going to finance me on $1,100 per unit for 100 units if you're really only getting $600 a unit. Like nobody cares about the what could be, right? Like it's
right.
the what is. I mean, how did you you get to see his finances? I mean,
oh yeah, we were able to see. I mean, we were very. That was another thing that was cool, is they were very open about everything. We were very. They were very transparent, and we're, like I said, we were friendly beforehand. So it was very much like, this is what we make normally, and I could see already with what I was doing, just because they've been doing it for 35 years. They didn't really take advantage of things like eBay or social media or things like that. Just from me stepping in and doing little things like that and selling on eBay, I was generating another like 30% worth of revenue that they weren't before we stepped in. And this was me just kind of like, okay, well, helping out as much as I can. If I was really throwing coals on the fire, you know, I was still doing my eBay on the side.
sure.
So like when I was like, okay, well, if this is mine and I can put both feet in on this, it's gonna be way more than 30%, you know, and it is. I mean, that's the nice thing about owning your own business, especially when you're selling things, is basically you're just you're responsible for what you're gonna make, you know. Like I could make bare bones, regular, whatever comes through the door is what I make. I could make 10 times that if I really wanted to just sit on the computer and list comic books until my fingers bled, you know. I mean, like, you can, no matter what, it's you. That's the hardest part about owning a business, is it's all you. You know, like, your successes, that's you. Your failures and your short-sightedness and your, man, I just really wanted to go golfing that day. Yep, that's you too, you know.
I do really want to go golfing.
I know, right?
Now, so you answered one of my questions. Are you doing online sales? You had mentioned, like, when you started, you were doing shows. Are you guys still doing shows now?
There is none. I mean, we're trying.
Well, besides, so before COVID, I guess, like so you've owned it for 6 years, I guess. So in the past 5.5 years, were you still kind of doing shows and things?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we would normally, this year has been really rough, just mentally, for not being able to just go and do shows.
Sure.
We would usually do anywhere from 12 to 20 in a year.
Okay.
Depending on, you know, like, and some of them were as small as like, okay, well, it's 9 to 3 at this gymnasium, and some of them were like, okay, well,
Byron Center.
Byron Center, exactly. But then there was Indianapolis, where you're there from Thursday morning setting up till Sunday night tearing down.
Sure.
So
Were,
I
were the
missed the
old
hell out of it.
were the old owners doing shows as well?
They did back in the day. I mean, they did in the 80s and 90s, and they had really, like, taken their foot off the gas on it. And I think that's another thing, is if you're going to do the business that we do, like, they hadn't done a convention in 6 years before we started, and they did one right before we bought the shop from them. Like, we went and did it with them. but you really have to get out there and see what people are buying and see what people are interested in, because especially in the collectible industry, things can change on a dime. You know, I mean, like, to make sure that your prices are right, to make sure that you're pricing your stuff right, but also paying what you're supposed to be paying for things, because all of a sudden a book that you thought was $200 and you could sell for $200 regularly, it can take a nosedive just like a stock, and all of a sudden you're paying, you know, $150 for a book that you're only going to be able to make $100 maybe on.
Sure. So you're taking the loss.
Right.
So, I mean, I have a few more questions on my end.
Yeah.
Let's see, I have to figure out. So I'm interested. What's the most expensive thing you've seen either come through your shop or you've owned in your shop? Like, what's the most expensive thing in the comic book world? Because I've heard this like magical story of like
Amazing Fantasy 15. Is it 15?
what's that? I don't even know. Like, you know, the first ever comic book, like Spider-Man #1 edition, is sold for like, I don't know, 10
Yeah, it's
grand.
Amazing Fantasy. Is it 15, Gavin? Am I right?
Yeah, you got it.
So, you know,
You
like,
nailed it. It's funny. I saw one of those today. Actually, one of my customers is getting one graded, so I got to handle one of those today.
How nice
In
was it?
low grade. I mean, but a low grade
Still.
copy. So like, so CGC is the company that grades them.
Yep.
It goes from 1.0 to 9.8 basically. This would probably be a 1 to a 2. You're still looking at 20 grand.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So,
That's still not the most impressive one that I've handled though.
What's the most impressive?
The most impressive was so the first appearance of Batman is Detective 27.
Oh yeah.
The next, so I've never seen one of those in person. I've never handled one, but kind of the next most impressive is there's two. There's Detective 38, which is the first appearance of Robin, and then there's Batman #1, which is the first appearance of the Joker and Catwoman and Penguin. And so I handled both of this. I'll tell you the whole story. One of our customers, he was really in dire straits, gonna have his power shut off, all this kind of stuff. He comes in and he goes, "Hey, like, we're getting ready to head out to a show," and he goes, I need to talk to you about these comic books." And I go, "Can it wait?" And he's like, I got to talk to you about this, you know, like really worked up." And I go, "Okay." So he brings in this box, or these banker bags, and just like what you'd think for like a deposit pouch would look like.
Yep.
Unzips it. There's a first appearance of the Fantastic Four, Amazing Fantasy 15. There's an Avengers #1. There's every big book that you can think of that there's a movie on. He had those books. But I'm like, you know what? I've handled these books before. I've seen them. I'm cool. Like, I'm unflappable. You know, like, you're not gonna blow my mind with the first appearance of Spider-Man. So we keep going. And there's a first appearance of the Green Lantern, the first appearance of Hal Jordan, which I'd never seen one of those before. Not an insanely expensive book, but starting to sweat a little bit. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. And then I get into the Batmans and I get to the Detective 38 and I'm like, okay, I need to either put these books down because I am like shaking. I'm so excited. Handling that one and then handling the Batman #1. I mean, that is comic book insanity. So the Batman, let's see. One of them, I think it was the Batman #1, sold for $40,000. And then the Detective 38 sold for, I want to say, $27,000 to $30,000.
wow. So, and then you sell them on consignment for him?
Yeah. So basically, he didn't want to. He wanted just cash in hand. And we're like, okay. And the way he came in and the way he was nervous, I was thinking that he needed cash, like gonna break my kneecaps. I need cash right now type of situation.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, well, what's your timetable? How fast do you move these? And he goes, oh, in the next year or so. We're like, in the next year? All right, well, let's do this, you know?
Yeah.
So we got him graded. We sent him off to, we didn't do them on eBay. We did them on one of the more prestigious auction houses. We sold on Heritage, which is kind of the gold standard for auction houses for collectibles and things.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like,
So
I think so. I have two questions, or I have a question and a statement on that. One, I love how like excited you got about comic books, and I'm over here like, yeah, you know, hey, it's comic, like, but I love your passion for it, right? Like, you're in the right business because you're passionate about your business and what you do. And then my question is, the Batman that where like the Joker comes in and the Penguin and all that, like when you open that book, does like Kiss from a Rose by Seal just play like a birthday card? Like
Yeah, absolutely. No,
why
I
do
mean,
you
like,
have to go to one of the worst Batman movies?
like the greatest Batman movie. It's like the greatest
Horrible.
Batman movie.
Horrible.
It's probably because it's like the only one I've seen.
no. So the song that plays in my head is, if you're familiar with Flight of the Conchords, they do a song called "There Are Angels Doing It in the Clouds," and that's what pops into my brain.
there you go. So I don't know if you guys are intending to sell, but what are some suggestions? What are some things that you would give the old owner or even yourself or anybody that's looking to sell? Like, what is the suggestion? Like, what should you have if you're ready to sell your business? If you're looking to sell it, like, what should you do? What are some things you should have in place?
Honestly, man, I think that was the best case scenario. I mean, I can't think of a more smooth transition. I got to meet the customer base as not the guy that's going to come take over. I got to meet them as just hey, this is Gavin. He's going to be helping out in the shop, to the point where, hey, Gavin's here every single week, to the point where, like, hey, Gavin's going to start taking over this place, and everybody was just on board. Like, I got to meet everybody. Everybody was comfortable with me.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I lost 0 customers in the switchover. I mean, 0. I lost no one. There was no.
You
I
know,
think that
when we look at, Grand Rapids in a whole,
Yeah.
so there were like 4 or 5 comic book shops, when I moved up to Grand Rapids, which would have been 99-ish. I got Caitlin when she was 5, so she was, we're talking 2000, 2001. And I went to different comic book shops with her, but I never really found one I liked until Gavin's like, yeah, try this, try that. You might like this, she might like that. Really, it's the little things when you look at an owner of a business.
So
Do they make their base feel comfortable? Do they, are they personable? What were you gonna say, Gavin? Go ahead.
I'm broken on this level. I mean, like, you guys are. It's very nice of you to invite me onto the show, because this is all about business and things like that. And yeah, as in the most basic sense, yes, I do own a business, but at the same time, like, I couldn't own. I don't think I could own any other business. I am so fully invested in comic books. I've had people come in and be like, "You should buy this. Insert here, Pokemon card, Magic card."
you should. We met at I said we met at a New Year's party or something a couple years back, or maybe last year. And
Yep.
A couple years ago.
I'm sitting here going, okay, I like the guy. I'd like to support his business. I was like, man, you should carry Magic just so I can come into your store and buy stuff and just hang out. And he's like, it's not our thing. And I was like, it could be your thing, because I mean, granted, you've kept me from being broke, but it's one of those things where it's like, you're devoted to what you are and your brand and things like that, and I appreciate that.
That's the thing, and I turn away money quite a bit for Magic and Pokemon and things, and people go, well, why don't you carry that stuff? You're a comic book store. And it's just like, well, A, they're not really comic books, and B, there's so many good stores in town that dedicate themselves to Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, that are fantastic. You walk in and they know everything about it. They love to talk, they love to play. I'm not that guy, and I don't want to sell you something that I don't care about, because you'd be like, hey, did you see the new sparkly whatever special card? And I'd be like,
nope.
It's cool, I guess. And yeah. I don't want to. Do you swear on this?
Yeah, we do. Yes.
Quite often.
I don't want to shit in somebody's cereal bowl when they're super excited about something. Like, oh my gosh, did you see this cool thing? And I'm like, that sucks.
No, I can appreciate that, right? Because, I know as a kid, like, I was that '90s kid who wanted some football cards, and I got everybody's hand-me-downs, and they were all like, nobody handed me a really good card, but I'd still go into like places, And I'm like, hey, can I sell any of these? Right. And anybody that's watching, my brother was really big into a player on the Carolina Panthers called Tim Biakabatuka. And he like got injured within like half a year, right? Like didn't even do anything. But like I'm sitting here like, this is gonna be the greatest running back of all time. Like, and nobody would give me a dime. And I'm sitting here going, all right, I'm on cloud 9, and these people are like, yeah, you just got shit. And I'm like, come on. So, but so I can appreciate that. At least you're honest with it. And again, devoting yourself to what you know is the biggest thing.
And there are those small niche things that you sit there and you go, God, I love that. So Gavin knows Garbage Pail Kids for me.
Oh, and I got you too.
I fucking love them.
So
like, I'm growing up, and I'm one of those 80s kids. Nick doesn't understand this because he was born in the late 80s. So I'm one of those 80s kids. And my grandmother worked at the market down the road. Okay. It was this little place you went to get your fucking milk or 6-pack or whatever. Every time she worked, she came home either with baseball cards, football cards, or Garbage Pail Kids. And I loved baseball cards and I loved football cards, but man, those Garbage Pail Kids were the stupidest thing ever. But I was so excited. My mother burned all of mine.
Oh.
In the burn barrel and just torched them.
I've heard this story many times before, and it sucks so bad to hear.
Gavin, every time I come in, do I grab a pack or 2 or 3 of Garbage Pail Kids?
Every single time, absolutely. Like I said, I got you.
Yep.
I want to go back to the perfect scenario, right? So when I bought one of my buildings, when I bought an 8-unit, I was looking at a completely different 8-unit right around the corner, and I brought my mentor because this is my first of bigger purchases and things, and he's like, I'm be honest with you, kid, like this one needs this, and he just started pointing out things. He goes, it's pretty well, it's horribly maintained. There's just, it's not good management. You're gonna have a big struggle. He goes, let me show you what it should look like, and I'm like, okay, like if you're gonna show me what it look like, I'm gonna know how to bring this to that. Like that's what I have you for. And he's like, well, if you're gonna buy that one and you're really serious, what do you think about buying this one? It's already managed well and good client. And I was like, well, I mean, if you're serious, like what I'm gonna pay for this. I'm not paying you anymore. Like I have numbers. And he's like, oh, that's fine, So I dressed up as a pest company or whatever, like with some people, and like we're going through some units, and it's first time kind of getting to know it. And then as I'm buying it, he's like, all right, we're gonna go do some maintenance together, and like, hey, and so like people started getting to know things, like, but they wouldn't know that I'm looking to buy it, right? It was just, hey, he's hanging around good company, like this guy, and then all of a sudden, right, it was like, all right, purchase. Walt stays around for quite a while, and he's like, I'm gonna make sure the tenants know not to call me, but to call you with all their problems and things like that, and just slowly, like, right, but like that hands-on thing of like, now my tenants aren't afraid that some random person is just kind of buying it, right? Like they're not, oh, is he gonna raise rent? Is he gonna kick it out? Is he gonna do this? Like, I mean, you're always feared for that, right? Like even with pull lists, like, oh, is he gonna keep my pull list? Is he gonna care that I've been around since 1979? Like I'm the number one. Like, does he care about me? And so I think there's like so much to be said about that because, right, like you want to care about that person as well as the old owner did, right? Like you want them to understand, hey, like, yes, we don't have that relationship, but we'll get there, right? Like I want that opportunity.
It never hurts to get an endorsement from the old person that they trust,
Yeah.
You get that. This is the guy. I'm not the guy anymore, but this is going to be the guy, and he's going to take care of you,
And I've bought in other places. I've bought in other places where let's be honest, like management was horrible, and the owner didn't do anything, right? And so like I get over there, and I'm like, hey, I'm Nick, I'm the new owner. Great, like blah blah. And get the one person that's like this is wrong, and I'm like, I'll get to it eventually. Like just let me slowly work on that. I'm not gonna flip your unit while you're in it, type of a thing.
Yeah,
but,
right.
I have the opportunity, and so like I start showing up, and I start doing certain things, and it's like, oh wow, okay. Like one of the big things, and it's even a joke with like so many people, is like I've had 3 phone calls, which is like the first ever 3 phone calls I've ever denied because I'm on this podcast. But like I answer my phone no matter what, like anytime, like I am that guy, right? So like that's what I offer people a lot. And so there's times where you can benefit, and you need that hands on, but there's other times where you're like, nope, that owner's no longer around. He has nothing to do with it. Like letting you know that things have changed here. So I think there's a time and place like where that happens. We had it go around. Last year, I think it was like there was a snowplow company that like they landed half of Jenison. I swear it was half of Jenison for like snowplowing, right? They plowed like the first week, and then they never showed up to anything else. And it was like, so you get, oh hey, my snowplow, and like the company just closed the doors, like took everything, was like, see ya. It was like, oh crap. So then like all these companies had like an opportunity to come in and like earn that respect again. But like, people are very timid at that point. Like, I'm not gonna get taken twice. You're dumb. Granted, that's why I have 2 shovels and get out there and do it. But it's
Right.
like, even now, like, and referrals are huge, right? Like, I use a lot of Walt's people. I mean, we've become best friends on some certain things. And he's used some of my people just because, like, hey, my electrician, right? Like, yep, is a fantastic guy, goes and does things like on time, and he never really had an actual, he always called like a different company, like, yeah, we can get there, but like his plumbing people, like, hey, it's Walt. Oh, hold on, like, yeah, hey, you know what? Your toilet's gonna stay running for like an hour, like they're over here, but like, yeah, we'll come back, but so there's just that relationship building is huge to me, especially in small business, right? Like, I mean, I look at myself like I lost a corporate job, and that was because I was a number, right? Like, so if your customers just feel as a number, they're going to go to a place that they don't feel like a number, right? Like, I don't know, you don't call David, oh man, there's bag number 167, here you go, man. Like that, you don't ask people to come in, hey, what's your number? Like,
Right.
no, hey, yeah. So and I think that's huge.
Well, and I mean, like that's because everything is getting so much further and further away from that, especially with COVID, especially with people only like barely being able to leave the house to go uh either go to work or they're doing very little socializing and stuff to be able to come into a store. Because I mean, like, again, you go to Meijer and they're tired and they're scared and they're beat, I mean, like, and they've been mistreated because people are yelling at them all the time about, because they're pissed off and scared. But you go to a shop that cares, and I mean, like, I hear it a lot. People come in and they go, wow, this shop is really cool. And I see it a lot in our reviews on Google and stuff where they're like, the customer, the people that run the place are insanely knowledgeable and extremely nice. And like, that's all I go for in life. Even if you don't buy anything, I'll take knowledgeable and nice and just, make sure that you're enjoying the hobby,
Can I get $1 million?
No, but I will show you some books that
This
might
guy's not
eventually.
nice. Don't let him talk anymore. Cut him off. He said he was nice. I just said no.
So and here's one of the things, Nick can probably back me up on this. I'm kind of a pain in the ass.
What?
Factual
And
statements.
It's okay that I'm a pain in the ass, but how you win people over is by actually honestly caring about them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when they walk in the door, you care about whatever their story might be. So Gavin knows, I help Dawn run a business, and when people walk in the door, we care about them. We want them to have a great experience when they come to our business. And I think that's why him and Deanna are so successful, because when you walk in the door at Tardy's, that these people honestly care about whether you have a good experience at their shop. You don't necessarily have to buy anything. You
Right.
just have to come in and they're going to tell you a story, or they're going to suggest some things to you. And as long as you had a good time there, they're happy.
Well, I think. Go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, the other thing too is to be to genuinely enjoy it. And that's what comes back to the things where I don't sell Magic cards or Pokemon or sports cards. To genuinely enjoy it. You don't like, I'm one of those people that I would rather you not talk to me at all than to lay on this fake customer service spiel and ploy. Like, I hate being sold on things. So there's customers, I'm sure David's one of those customers that they'll walk in the door and I'll go, ha ha, fuck you. And that's what they need. That's
Yep.
customer service, you know? They're like, ha ha, fuck you too, you know?
You know, I think that's huge. You know, so we hit it on the head, right? Like I don't have the passion for comic books that you have, right? But like I have the passion for the money aspect.
sure.
And you know, we're talking business. And so, right, I've asked that question to some other people, where it's about like, hey, what's the coolest thing you've seen? But like I want to know like there's a difference between coolest things, right? Like David, the Tuscan Solo Cup, which is worth 3 cents, and the like actual like $40,000 for a comic book. Like that like no matter what it is, like that interests me, right? Like I want to know what the weirdest thing that's sold for the most money, and on it blows, right, just like magic or whatever, like the most expensive card, or but the most expensive piece of paper that actually sold for money. Like it blows my mind how things can go from, you know, I don't even know what the comic book back in the day was, like 25 cents or whatever, and now it's worth 40 grand, right? Like, and
It was 10 cents originally.
but now that brings me to my next investment point, because we have to talk about money. We talked a little bit about the Ninja Turtles thing, and the two people that wrote it never talked to each other. If I want to get into like, so baseball cards are coming back. I don't know if you guys know this at all, but like, dude, it's becoming like this collector's thing. Gary V, which I'm wearing his shoes. Hold on, let me take one down. I got the 001s on right now. So my boy Gary V. My one broke after I wore it 3 days, right in the heel area, but I only had it because I've owned them for, I don't know, 2 years now or whatever it is. But they said because the receipt's older than like 60 days, I can't get my money, or they won't replace anything. And I'm like, that is so much bull. Like I've kept them as collector's things. Now I'm just wearing them because I'm like, I don't really care. I didn't do them as collector's items. Like I wanted them for like special, like, hey, I need to get into business mode, and the time has happened. But I think, you know, how do I know if a comic book is going to be worth money? Is there a way to kind of judge these things? Like, what do you suggest for somebody who's like me, who really just wants to look at another business adventure? And how do I find the right comic book for me?
There's a ton of ways to figure that out. I mean, you can Google and look up comic book investment apps and comic book invest websites and things like that. And the main thing that they're going to say for any of this kind of stuff is look for new appearances of characters, look for things that might be prevalent in movies and TV later, you know. So like, for instance, Marvel's doing the Eternals. The Eternals comic books, they've got Angelina Jolie and a handful of other people. I don't think we've seen a trailer for it yet, but it's coming, you know, like COVID really threw a wrench in everything. I had 4 full sets of the original comic books that I couldn't give away. And now you look at a number one. The number one, when I had looked it up before, sold for about $5, maybe, if you found the right person. Now it's an easy couple $100 book. There's variations to the cover that you can get $2-3 grand for.
Wow.
So it's one of those things that really, one of the things that's driving the comic book community is movies and TV, and what's getting licensed and what's getting optioned.
So doing all that research. So if I came into your shop as just a guy who wants to make some money, I mean, can you guide me in the right direction of what I might be able to buy?
So I can tell you things that are sound investments. I can be like, oh, this is the first appearance of such and such that is going to be in this movie or whatever. But really, what you want to do is be that guy that's kind of ahead of the curve on all that. You know, you want to do as much research as you can. So, like for me, I'm going to try and sell you a book that's a first appearance of a character that's already known, because I don't want to sell you something that's not proven already. Sure. Whereas if you're doing something on your own and going through the bins and go, oh, hey, this character is going to be in Suicide Squad. I have it marked for $4 and it's selling online for $200. You know, I mean, like, comic books are like that right now. You can go into a shop and go through people's dollar bins or go through people's bins and find books that are worth more than what we have priced on them. I mean, it's frustrating as a business owner to be like, I saw that book sell for $75 and I had $4 on it. But that's how business works, you know, like you got to watch yourself when you do that, because you run the risk going into a shop and making the owner angry or something like that. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's that person priced that book at that price. They need to be happy with what they got out of it.
Sure. Well, that's
So
what I say.
if I was running out, since Marvel Phase 4 is coming out,
Yeah.
and I bought like a Shang-Chi.
Yeah. So that went from being about a $25 book, a first appearance of Shang-Chi, to, oh, the last copy that I had was really beat, and I sold it for $175 instantly. So, I mean, like, that's the move, really, is to stay on top of things. Like, I remember when Guardians of the Galaxy first started being announced and stuff, the first appearance of Star-Lord was like a $10 book before that.
Yeah.
And then it shot up to be like a $450 book.
This is
Almost.
crazy. It's awesome to talk about this money, because like I didn't realize there was this much money in comic books. Like because again, it's not an interest to me, and
It's the same as baseball and football cards. It's
Really?
just collectibles. And in all honesty, Gavin really, as far as I'm concerned, has cornered the market on this. It's not only the comic books, it's the toys too.
yeah. Well, I mean, you look at examples of that, right? Like Kiss, right? I mean, they came out with toys. I mean, we look at Star Wars, right? As much as I make fun of Star Wars and know nothing about it, but there's so much money into it, because why? Look at Disney, right? Disney bought Star Wars. Now you got like 3-foot statues of Star Wars characters out there. You got every character in the Star Wars thing. I mean, dude, like people buy toys, they buy action figures, they buy things that they can collect. I mean, naturally, we are people that collect things that we enjoy. So,
Well, and looking at Star Wars as an example, so when I was a kid, they had literally, you went to any store, Meijer, Kmart, whatever, they had just this entire section of Star Wars toys. And of course, they were named for whatever it looked like. So you could buy Walrus Man, you could buy Squid Head, you could buy, all these different.
Sand guy.
Yeah. So mind you, later they gave these people real names.
And backstories and history.
Right. So now they actually are really things. So like, for example, Walrus Man is Ponda Baba. And he has this whole backstory on who he is. And, people that care about Star Wars know what this is. But Nick looks at it and he goes, that dude looks like a walrus.
Let's say, let's give a real example, because this hits home for me. David, what's the costume your wife has? The white furry thing?
Muff tack.
a muff tack, right?
Yep.
Right. So they come over, they show us this thing, and I'm not a Star Wars guy. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it's a white puffy thing. It's a white puffy thing. But then they show me a video, right? And it's like it pans across, right? And it's done. And they're like, see him? I was like, yeah. That's the only time he shows up in Star Wars. He's sitting at a bar, and that's it. And I was like, wow, there's a whole costume on a guy who has like a millisecond of a clip. But then they started giving backstories of this thing. They started doing all this. Like they rewrote everything that showed up.
Yeah.
So, and now that suit's worth thousands of dollars.
Well, and I mean, like, any of that kind of stuff, comic books and toys and things like that, everybody wants the first appearance of things, I mean, like, you look at any of that kind of stuff, and you'll find weird little, like, for a while, Marvel produced Star Wars back in the 70s in the comic books and stuff, and they did a comic book called The Last Jedi. Had nothing to do with the movie, but all of a sudden it started shooting up in value, just because it had the same name. I mean, people want that first taste of that character.
Sure.
In all honesty, if I was going to buy a first character, a first comic book of a character, I'm wearing him right now.
I got one in the store. I'll sell it
I
to
know you
right
do.
now.
It's just too rich for my blood.
Punisher's too rich.
Punisher's pretty expensive. First Punisher, Amazing Spider-Man 129. The copy that we have in the store right now is $1,400.
David has that money. Chump change for David.
I know, right? He's got Tuscan money. I mean, like he's
Yeah.
got money for robes and Muppet heads and
Right,
stuff.
I have Tuscan money.
By the end of this episode, dude, our goal is to get him to buy this copy.
That's right.
Say, Dawn, if you're watching this, David wants that for Christmas. Like one way or another, this thing's getting sold.
That's right.
She is not buying that, I can guarantee you.
Hey, when you go into the store, it's just gonna have a big sold tag, and I mean, granted, it's just gonna say sold to David, right? And Gavin slowly is just gonna add an extra like couple bucks every time that, hey, $62.50. What do you mean $62.50? It's supposed to be $60. Nah, $250. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right in years, right? Like every time.
I keep telling him we're good friends. He's just gonna give it to me for my birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get you drunk on your birthday, and then you're gonna give me the money for it, and then I'm gonna give you that for your birthday.
That might happen.
I know, right?
So, all right, for everybody watching, listening, what's the biggest suggestion you could tell people who are looking to buy somebody out of their business?
Man, I'm the wrong person to ask for that. I mean, like, just it kind of comes back to what I talked about through this whole thing. Be decent about it. Like, try and relate to them and let them know why you care, because ultimately they opened that business because they were excited about it. You know, whether you're a painter or you do what I do, selling comic books or selling something, let them know why you want to do that in your life. I mean, like, I would hope that the desire, I mean, like, money's got to be a factor, but like, you can't just walk in and be like, I want to do this because I want to make all the money. But if you can relate to them on that level of, you know, like, man, I've been coming in here for years. This place means the world to me. That's what it is. You know, I mean, like, you relate to them on that human level and let them know that their legacy is going to be preserved. That's one of the main reasons why one of the main reasons why we didn't change the name was it was already an established business for 35 years. But for the other reason, why would I change the name on something that he'd had his name on for 35 years? You know, I mean, like, you keep the guy, and that's a secured legacy. You know that, like, the people that you care about and the business that you care about isn't going away. It's not changing. It's going to keep going for another generation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, you know, you accepted that legacy and what it was and just made those little subtle changes, but for the most part, just kept it going.
So
Yeah.
the question I forgot to ask, do you rent your space or own the building?
So we rent it from the owner that we're bought it from, but we are buying the building in the next couple of years. We've already got paperwork drawn up and everything. So
Does he own so you talked about the deli next door,
Yep.
which I still haven't eaten at, but I've eaten at oh man, what's the place right next to that? The breakfast place.
Oh, Newbie or Real
It's
Food?
not-
Dude,
Yeah,
Real Food Cafe is like a half a mile away.
Is it
Yeah, it's
really?
away.
I don't know. All those strip malls down there look the same. So every time I see Tardy's and I'm like, but that gyro looks real good. Like every time I'm like, man, I kind of want a gyro. So
Stop in sometime and grab some food. And when you order, it'll be like 10, 15 minutes before your
Oh,
food's
yeah.
coming in. Just pop in, because I guarantee you, your first walk in, you look around, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Where am I right now?
no, I say I've been to so many. I've been meaning to stop in and just say hey. But again, I have a problem with collecting. I'm already talking about how to make money and stuff like that. So my wife, if I went, you talked about how you sold your adult magazines,
Yeah.
like 37 in a row. Like I'm that guy who's like, yep, I'm just gonna keep stacking boxes. And my wife would be like, there's more crap in the house, and be like, yep, don't worry about it. Someday it's gonna be worth nothing.
Exactly.
Yep. No, so that's why I try to stay away, because if it's collectible, man, I go for it, right? Granted, yes, you say I was born in the late 80s, but I was around for the 90s. and TY Beanie Babies were the biggest thing. And I was like, man, I gotta own a Beanie Baby in every single one of them. And then somebody's like, the Princess Diana bear is worth like, I don't know, $100 million or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to get that thing. Like, you know, be scouting people. I'm like, I'm trading you for this, and like I'm trading up, and I'm doing whatever I can to get this thing to happen, man.
If your collectible story is Beanie Babies, we got a problem.
I collect bowling balls. Does that help you?
No.
Just say.
I'm still angry I got rid of all my Transformers, G.I. Joes, and E-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody's got some type of collection, right? Whether it's a collection of stocks or whether it's a collection of comics. So another side, gosh, I have so many questions. Do you have a personal collection of your own, or does everything have a price tag for you?
I mean, I've got a yes to both. I've gotten them. I mean, my wife and I both have an amazing personal collection. Our house is just full of collectible. Hold on, I can just
He
real
said,
quick.
hold on.
That's just the living room. That's 6 display cases of monster stuff and vinyl figures and horror and all sorts of cool stuff that we have. But no, I mean, like, but ultimately, if you were like, man, in all my life I've been looking for this figure and I'm willing to pay you 3 times above what you have on it, it's a good possibility that you're like, you know what? All right, I've had it for a while. I've appreciated it. It's time to roll it.
Sure. Now,
So
the other quick question, because we talked about my Gary V's and how I was putting them in the box and stuff like that. And then I realized I'm always that person that's like, I want to enjoy the things I have. How many things do you have that are still new in box? You keep it in the box, like for new toys, not old school collectibles, right? That you knew that they were collectibles. Like, how many things do you buy now that you keep straight in package, don't touch it because you think, hope, want to be there?
so that's a tough one. I have a lot of stuff, and I buy a lot of stuff for me initially, but a lot of stuff I don't take out of the box. So case in point, the stuff that I just showed was all monster horror type stuff. I'm also a huge avid He-Man collector. I've got almost every U.S. release He-Man figure. I'd say I'm missing one thing, maybe 2. So they just released a Snake Mountain Skeletor's playset, but it's scaled up to fit 6-inch figures, which is like the main thing that people collect right now. I bought it for $600. It's selling for $1,500 right now online.
Ooh.
And are you willing to wait to sell it, or are you going to sell it?
No, I'm going to hold on to it. But the problem is I'm so broken now, being somebody that buys and sells and stuff, is I go, man, I really want to bust that out and check it out and see what it looks like. But it's selling for $1,500 right now, and they're not making any more. I think I'm probably just going to leave it in the box, you know? So, yes, I do collect stuff. Like, I've got, for instance, when I went to Star Wars Celebration, I got the Marvel Legend, or the Star Wars Black figures that they did for that. Still in the package, still pristine. But you know what? If somebody came up to me and was like, I'll give you $400 a piece for them right now, I'd be like, all right, that's cool.
Sure. So there's nothing in this world that you wouldn't sell collectible wise.
Boy, there's very few things. I mean, like, I'm sure there's a couple of things that I wouldn't. Oh man, gun to my head. Yeah, there's very few things. So I showed the cases before. I don't know if you saw this, but this is one of my favorite things. This, I don't know if you can see it on the floor over there.
It looks like a green M&M.
Hold on, I'll get up and show you. So it's a Ratfink figure. It's 24 inches tall, and it is super cool. And I think this is one of the things that I would not get rid of. And I don't know why. I'm not a car guy, but I love Ratfink so much.
All right. Let's see.
He's just big and gnarly, and I love him. I go to bed with him every night. No, I don't really.
Say he looks like he stays there, but I'll believe that you sleep right next to it.
Absolutely.
The air mattress is coming out here very soon.
Look, all right, I need everyone to understand this right now. It is not sexual.
Say,
I got rid of the question is Ratfink between you and Deanna, or is he on the other side?
No, he's right in the middle. Absolutely. We love him.
So, David, any other questions?
No, I think we got a lot of good information from Gavin. You know,
You know what?
go
You
ahead.
know what? I take that back as far as selling stuff, because the toys are cool, the comics are cool, the carded figures are cool, but there's something that I collect that I can't just go out and get more of, and that's original artwork. My original artwork is something that I would not sell if you stuck a stack of cash in front of me, because A, I have stories that are tied to every single one of those things, and B, they are one of one. I
Can
think
I?
that is, yeah.
Sorry. So when it comes to original artwork, I don't know what that means, but like my wife and I, when we go to Detroit or when we go to like any city that we visit, there's usually like a person busking for money or something. Like we had the skyline of Grand Rapids pastel, like chalk painted or whatever, and it was just done by a random person who's never going to be any. I mean, he might be somebody, but like he's never going to be somebody. But like we always buy original artwork, is the way I see it, right? Like somebody who draws something. What do you mean by original artwork? Is it by an artist that's like known, like the person that wrote Batman 423 and like that he drew something for you?
Correct. So there's two different things that you can get. One of the things is my wife and I both have a sketchbook that we bring to every convention with us, and it's you can pay to get original artwork done. So like for instance,
Oh,
I have an original sketch of Rorschach from Watchmen, from the guy who created Watchmen.
sure.
I have an original Swamp Thing painting from one of the guys that worked on Swamp Thing. So there's that kind of stuff that I buy, which I love. That is personal. I usually sit with the artist while they work on it, and we sit and like it's either you give them the book and they work on it and then they give it back to you when they're done, or you sit and while they're working on it and you just kind of shoot the shit. And to shoot the shit with some of these dudes who have worked on this stuff is awesome.
No, and so I say because so in Magic the Gathering, I played. I used to be pretty okay.
Yeah.
I was okay in the States and stuff like that. But there's an artist named John Avon, and you can do
Yep.
what's called altered art, right? I mean, so this goes to something that you're not interested in, but like it excites me. So John Avon is known for like the best artwork in Magic, and right, he'll do alter the cards, and so I have a couple like where he added like taller trees to some of his stuff, and he signs things, right? And it's like I know no matter what, like I wouldn't trade that or sell it. Like, you know, I can get like again, it doesn't bother you, but like I can get $50 for a foil forest, right? Like normally, and I could honestly I'll trade that away and sell that all day. I don't really care. But
Right.
like this one altered, it might be worth 100, but to me it's just like I guess like for $100,000, I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like there's a number on it, but like that number has to be so significant that nobody would ever pay it type of a thing. It's that hypothetical, and I don't like hypotheticals. I'm not that kind of person. I have, oh, what would you do? But like really, there it has to be just so ridiculous that nobody would pay it.
It has to be life-changing money.
Exactly, right? Like, and so I think I think there's definitely a few things that I hold on to. Sorry, my my rock star here is telling me good night. So
Hi, Emerson.
she's YouTube famous. So I think that there's always going to be that personal level of things. So like the one of a kinds where it's something that you're interested in and you're awesome. Like nobody else would pay you the amount of money that you want for it, right? Like
Right.
I agree.
So there's that. There's original sketches that I have that I spent time with the artist, and then there's also full-on published work that I have. So like I own pages that have been printed in comic books, or covers that have been printed for comic books. I think probably one of the more expensive pieces that I have is by an artist named Jock who worked on Batman, and it's one of those things that it's one of one, and it's so cool because you can grab somebody's comic book and go, oh hey, flip flip flip, I own that page. That is a cool feeling to have, like I own that original artwork and it's on my wall right now,
Oh, you own okay, so you own what they made the copies of.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Like that's really cool to me.
So I'm gonna throw this out there right now. Gavin, do you want to know what Don bought me for Christmas?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know,
$1,400. What were we trying to sell? A force?
no, she did not buy me the first appearance of the Punisher.
Not yet.
So at Grand Rapids Comic Con last year, Guy Gilchrist was there, who's a Muppet artist.
Right.
And he saw me and my buddy Mike, who do the Waldorf and Statler in our Tuscan Raiders.
Right.
So she talked to Guy, and Guy's doing a Waldorf and Statler for me in our Tuscan Raiders.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome. That's so damn cool.
I'm so excited. He's like, so what are we looking for? And she goes, you know, they need to be in their box. They need to be heckling somebody. Figure out what you want them to say. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to see what Guy comes up with. But such a nice man.
That's the other cool thing about Comic Cons is you get to meet these artists. And I mean, like, celebrities are super cool, but in my opinion, I've had so many genuine, heartfelt moments with artists where you got to sit and hang out while they're working on a piece for you, or just and it kills sometimes. You hear the stories of some of these artists who are like not the best human beings, because like I've met people that were always super nice. Like I met this artist named Ethan Van Sciver, who has a real I don't know, like bad history of like getting like very, very political, very, very polarizing to fans. I never had any conversation with him that was bad. I don't know. Like we talked about, he collects autographs from celebrities and he sends off VHSs to get signed by them. And it blows my mind when I hear these horrible things that have happened with artists like that I've met, you know? I don't know, man. Like it's a trip, but like it's so cool to have some of this original stuff that like you hang out and watch the person put together, you know, like you watch their talent unfold. So
All right. Hey, Gavin, stay with us for a bit. But everybody, I want you guys to like, subscribe, share. Bucks and Brews is growing. We're really excited that you guys are tuning into this. It's been a real awesome thing to watch for me, just the amount of times that people are listening. I've been getting quite a bit of feedback. Just had a phone call with somebody on our last episode. I'm really appreciative of everybody that's watching and taking their time. Gavin, I want to thank you so much for joining us, talking about how to buy an existing business. Being a business owner itself, man, like you're an awesome dude that cares about the community itself. I can't wait to have my daughter's like dance team or softball team or whatever she's going to get into next, like sponsored by Tardy's Comics, dude. Like how awesome is that going to be? Like all over the chest. So really, I appreciate it, guys.
Yep, I agree with Nick. Gavin, stick around for a minute. We're gonna end this episode right now, but as usual, we're gonna keep talking because that's kind of what happens here. So Nick said, please like, subscribe, share. You know, if you have any ideas for shows, please send them to us. If you have questions, please let us know what they are. We're here to help, and we absolutely love it. Gavin, did you have anything last minute to say?
well, I was just gonna pump up you guys again. Like, share, subscribe, send baked goods. They'll take cash, check, money order, any kind of gift. They'll probably take it. Not really Goodwill donations, but you know what? If it's worth enough, all right. If you can use it for a taxable write-off, I'm sure they'll take it. You know, I mean, whatever you can give these, I mean, just give it to them. It's fine. They're gonna keep asking, so you might as well just give it to them.
Line and Googles, we're waiting for your sponsorship.
New Glarus, Wisconsin Belgian Red. I'm waiting for that sponsorship. Like I care about David. I'm going to share one with him someday. But really, like, this is all mine. So take care, everybody.
We'll see you guys next week.